his career had on me, especially early on in my career. But yeah, this book is definitely the reverse or the mirror version of Rebel Without a Crew, without question.
Nice, because I was thinking that um, that there's a book called what was it, the Lean Startup by
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
By Eric Ries, and in
Sure.
that book he talks about what was the difference between like his startup, like he was working with venture capital money, he was working in the tech space, that where the stuff that they were producing was very similar to Facebook, but somehow Facebook became the thing that made it.
Right.
But there were other iterations of variations of that same
Right.
platform existed, and so that's where his journey was the same thing. Like the Lean Startup is about like, I didn't make it as Facebook, but this is what I learned from the process, and then in diving into the methodology of breaking down like any sort of product launch or product creation. So it's
Mhm.
interesting. Like, so your book could be the companion piece to Rebel Without a Crew, or other things like, we always read about those who make it in this like
Mhm.
this lottery ticket that just sends somebody off on a trajectory that we aspire to, and then the reality is it hits us on this other end. And it's good to know that there's stories out there, and so it's gonna be great to finally read it. I'm gonna read it on the paperback. I bought it. I'm gonna wait till it gets there, and then let's talk about now what have you learned about product launch in terms of how did you get involved with this publisher? Because I know that I self-published my book, and that
Mhm.
was an experiment to see the principles you can apply to selling any digital goods. Mine just
Mhm.
happened to be a book at the time for Amazon, to see how that could be applied to selling your film product. So one of the things that was taught to me by the same guys that we know, all the online entrepreneurs that we follow, was that when you're going to write a book or any digital product, any launch out there, especially something like on Amazon, they recommended to organize a pre-launch, pre-order sort of group. Say if you
Mhm.
try to get 100 people. So I remember organizing like 100 people as I was writing my book, so they
Mhm.
knew that they were going to get it. They were part of this group, and
Yep.
then when they got the book, I just asked them, "Can you leave a rating and review of it?" The day it comes out and launched. The problem I should have done in hindsight is that since I was on the Amazon platform, I should have had a special code where they bought the book through Amazon, because they bought it because they were part of my group, the special pre-launch group. They got the book, free, just via like a portal that I set up that
Mhm.
didn't
Mhm.
go through, and then they left a review on Amazon. But it's better if I had set up something where they bought it through Amazon, because then that way Amazon will show verified purchase, and then they leave the rating review there. It'd be much more
More.
effective.
Right. 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 Well,
So
well, yeah, I do have a launch team. I mean, the book hasn't been launched yet completely, so I do have a launch team. I've sent out multiple copies on PDF because I don't have the physical book yet. So a lot of PDF, private links have been sent down. That's what people have been reading.
apparently I got one, but I got to go check my emails. So
Well,
okay.
I mean, Scott, but so that's what people have been reading. I would have rather had real books to send out to people and do that investment. But I do agree with you. I think if they can run through Amazon, that would be better. I will be releasing my audiobook through Audible, which is Amazon, and I would I'll be sending links and stuff like that directly to people so they can get it for free and all that stuff like we talked about before. But yeah, that's what I've done so far, and people have really liked it. I mean, I have probably about 150 people in that group. And people have already leaving because now Amazon's opened up, so people can leave reviews. So I've already got a handful of reviews up there that are really good, and people have really, really liked it. I mean, people are really enjoying the book, and they've been it's moved them and it's hit them in places that I wanted it to hit them. So they're hitting chords that I wanted to hit. So
Hmm.
it's a very entertaining book. It's a very fun book. It's a ridiculous book, but it also has a lot of meaning. It's also a very horrific book. Any filmmaker will read it and go, Jesus, like this is like kind of the worst of the worst situations you could be in,
Yeah.
where you actually are sitting next to Batman and also sitting next to the devil. Like
Yeah.
you're literally on both sides of you. You've got your dream that's right there, but you've got someone right next to you that really doesn't want to make that happen for you. But yet they've put you in that situation. So it's a very odd place to be. But I hope it does. I hope it does help people. That's the reason why I wrote the book. It wasn't just to tell the story. I wanted to tell the story that hopefully will inspire people to get out of bad situations, to maybe reevaluate and be conscious of the reasonings why they want to be in the business, why they want to chase that golden carrot, what's the purpose of it, what's truly makes them happy. Are they willing to sell their morals out or sell their soul out for the mere opportunity? Like in this town right now, I live in LA. Right now, there's thousands of interns and assistants getting just crapped on left and right by their bosses, by agents, by managers, by producers, by actors, all in hopes that they can get a leg up to chase a dream that they're chasing. But then the question is, why are you chasing that dream? And is that success for you? Is success money? Is it success status? Is it making that movie to get to a certain level? Who's told you that that's the recipe for your happiness? Is there another option? You know, I've kind of discovered that in my own world, where before it was all about the Marvel movie, which I'm all about. If Marvel calls me, I will take the meeting. But I don't need that to be happy. I found happiness in the work I do with Indie Film Hustle, as well as the small movies that I'm making, my small personal movies that I'm making, which fulfill me artistically. And I'm able to help people by doing it. So it's kind of like this wonderful symbiotic loop of me helping people while still being able to express myself as an artist. I'm in heaven. I'm truly in a really good place, and it's taken me 44 and a half years to get here. So it's taken me a minute to get here, but I'm here now. I'm very happy, and I'm ready. I'm ready to go to the next level. But I've defined happiness now in a way that makes sense for me, as opposed to making happiness because that's what everyone told me. Like I still remember I heard the story that the Duplass brothers had offered. They got offered a Marvel movie, and they said no. And that's and everyone's, if you're a filmmaker, that's like, oh my God, you get to work for Disney and Marvel and have $200 million. But they had enough self-awareness to go, you know what, that's just not for us. I don't want to lock myself up for 3 or 4 years with no creative control on one project when I could be doing all these other things that make me much more happy. And I might not be as rich, but it's okay. I'm still okay. Things like that. So that only comes with age, I think. I think you would agree.
Yeah. And just different perspective. Things get shifted, right? I think you mentioned that. You talked about the Rocky line. I think what was the other line that it's always I think they attribute to Mike Tyson saying that everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face.
Punch in the face.
I think it's the most easiest way to say it. It's like, oh yeah, you got a plan. You got goals. Well, you're gonna get punched in the face
until you get that punch in the face, and all of a sudden, all that planning goes to, and it becomes instinct. At that point, it's all instinct.
Well, I want to shift gears a little bit to go back to like what we're talking about, the book launch or just a product launch. And for those people listening, why is it important to have a launch group? And the way I understood it, the way it was taught to me, was that having this pre-launch group for any product, whether or not it be a book, your movie. My daughter just recently released her first EP.
Yeah, I saw that.
Spotify. Right. Yeah, and she just did it on her own. But it'd be interesting to see like the next one she puts together to put a little bit more of a marketing plan, because she doesn't have a manager right now. She's just doing everything by herself. Right. And and as a father trying to keep arm's length, I asked her like, how involved do you want me to get with you to this stuff? And so giving her asking her permission to like, well, because if you let me in, I will go a little further.
I will film trooper the hell out of this.
So, but for those listening, the idea behind a launch group, and fill in what you know too, because this is what was taught to me and what my experience was, that the initial launch of anything, like say you have a movie that's going to go on iTunes, it really matters the pre-orders. They get the interest, to show interest, but also then having people leave a rating and review. If they're in your launch group and they've been with you from the beginning, the start of the journey, and they see the book or the movie or the music, the album coming out, and then all of a sudden they get it, they know that they're part of this group, that they have a responsibility, and make it easy for them to say, we need you to either buy the product from these different platforms, iTunes, Amazon, whatever it might be, and then leave a ratings review for the product. Now, you say you might have 100, 150 people in the group. Not every person will leave a ratings review. I had like
if I get 20 or 30, I'll be ecstatic.
I had like 100 people in the group. I had 35 people leave ratings and review.
Yeah, right.
And that's now all of a sudden that becomes permanent in the life of your product that's online. And so the what you're trying to do, as I understand it, it's like you're trying to not say game the system, but you're trying to put your product in the best light on these platforms so that all of a sudden Amazon's algorithms or iTunes, search functions, they see like, hey, this product got a bunch of pre-orders and a bunch of people left positive ratings and review on that. And now we can pair it up to what do we see when we go on these digital platforms? Viewers or customers also bought or also viewed or also listened to or also read. And this is what you're trying to do, is to pair your product up with, all of a sudden it can be lined up right next to a studio feature or a hot book or a hot album or anything like that. So what were your thoughts on
I would love anytime someone goes to buy Rebel Without a Crew that I pop up as well. Like people also bought Shooting for the Mob, as that. So that would be amazing if that would ever happen. But for my launch, I also created a launch team for This Is Meg when I was about to release that. Not release, actually. I think that was for the crowdfunding campaign. I created a little bit of a group there. And a group, it takes time and it takes a lot of effort to kind of put it together. You set up a Facebook group, you got to talk to them, you got to kind of interact with them, and then just kind of feed them. For whatever reason, I don't often tell people what I'm doing. I just kind of I got a new feature.
Yeah.
I just wrote a book, kind of thing. I don't, that's my bad. I don't take people on the journey with me. I do a little bit, but not like at the beginning stages a lot of times. This Is Meg I actually did.
Yeah.
But with the On Corner of Ego and Desire, my second movie, I did not. And this book, I did not. I just showed up. And IFH TV, Indie Film Hustle TV, I didn't do that one either. I just got all of a sudden, I'm like, hey, I got something coming. And then boom, here's Netflix for filmmakers, and boom, and it just kind of dropped, as opposed to kind of building it out.
Yeah.
So I don't know that's why I do that, but
I actually prefer that. I prefer that method, and I'm going to tell you, I've tried both, and I think I've failed because there's something psychologically when you announce something that you're working on, and it's almost like you've given the permission that it's already been out there. Like,
yeah. Don't get people excited. In order to keep that excitement going, it takes a bit. So I was like, the book is coming out in a month or 6 weeks, guys. That's fair. That's a fair thing to keep people excited, and they get a copy of the book and all that kind of stuff for a book launch, for a product launch, early access or things like that. But if you're trying to hold on to a launch group for like 6 months to a year, that's tough, man. It's not impossible. It's just too much stuff going on in the world for people to care as much. They really got to be invested in you for that to work. And don't get me wrong, there are people in my tribe who are as invested in what I do and how I do it, but it's hard. It's really hard to do to keep that going. So I agree with you. I think launching it when it's done or almost done works for certain products, for a specific launch team, if you will.
Yeah. I remember interviewing Oren Peli, from creator of Paranormal Activity. And he would never, his motto was like, I won't talk about any projects until it's like ready. Like, so he doesn't say anything, like he kept his mouth. And like I said, I tried that because I was given some advice, like, if you have some idea, just give it some energy. Just, don't be afraid, like, don't be precious about it. So I was like that. And then I was like, wow, I kind of said it out there. I put it out in the world, and then I never did anything with it because then I lost the energy for it. And so now going back into it, Film Trooper's been on a very limited release of late, because I don't put as much out there anymore. And it's not that I haven't been working on stuff. It's just that I want to be very calculated, and not as well as the quality that I put out. Hopefully, has the substance that is needed for the filmmakers at the time. And so this, I think, is helpful because what we're learning from here is like, you've got a story about what's the flip side if you don't become Rebel Without a Crew. I love this. I can't wait to hear this book. I love that you've got this launch group that we're discussing the back end of like launching any digital product and the thought process and the strategy behind that. And then this discussion about do you give when do you announce the projects you're working with, to a group or to the social sphere, or do you just keep quiet to the last minute before you have something, so that you just launch it on dump